Hi, today on the show, I would like to welcome Alok Appadurai. He is the visionary leader and business coach. He's also the author of the new book coming out, Maximum Impact Potential. And he is also the founder and CEO of Uplift Millions. He's also the father to Sequoia and partner to Caitlin. And I am so excited for this conversation today about leaving a legacy and the impact we can have in the world with our businesses. Welcome, Alok.
Kristin, such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let me ask you first, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to get here? I know it's an interesting one, and I know you've been through lots of things. You've started different businesses. So can you share that with us? And then what are you doing now?
Sure. Yeah. For the last 20 years, I've been building impact-driven companies that are dedicated to making the world a better place. The first one was in clean energy. Second one was in global media for women to reshape body image and mass media for women around the world. Third one was a sustainable clothing company that fed 500,000 meals to people in need. And that's what I gave my TEDx talk on. And now I run Uplift Millions, a global coaching and consulting company for entrepreneurs who want to build 6 to 8 figure companies that value people, planet, and profit.
Awesome. So tell me, how did you first realize that you wanted to make sure that the businesses you were a part of and that you were starting, had bigger impact than just where you spend your money?
When I was 19, I was driving in North India in the backseat of a car. My dad's from India, and I had a spiritual experience. I was on the investment banking track in college, and it was a hair-raising drive. And essentially, long story short, my 80-year-old self sat next to me and looked at me and said, "Alok, what did you do with your life? Who'd you spend your time with? And did it make a difference?" Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, if I just continue this track, I'm going to disappoint my 80-year-old self. And so I went back to university, rebuilt my major, and everything I've done since then. I was a teacher for 5 years after I graduated college, and then I started this impact-driven business career.
Awesome. So let me ask you, where do they fall? And then where are we getting stuck? If we haven't come along yet to realize how much impact we really can have in the world by what we create in this wealth that we're hopefully building and having some stability and freedom with.
I think that's so much of our sort of societal narratives kind of, track us in, get the job, get the house, go to Walmart, go to Costco, right? It's like there's a sort of normalized just sort of way of being. And I think more and more people are going through an awakening of I think many people don't realize, oh my God, we have so much impact that every decision that we make either has a positive or a negative impact in the world. There's no neutral, right? And so it's not about trying to be a saint or anything like that, but I think it's more what I'd like to empower your audience to think about is like, how do I begin sort of one step at a time, right? They don't have to worry about some massive overhaul of their entire life, but what about the micro decisions that would begin? And then you might start moving into some mid-level decisions. You might move into some macro decisions that to make impact. But even if even the tiniest little decisions you begin to make could actually have an outsized impact in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And the two things that I want to mention after hearing that, one was I had heard a stat, and I can't remember who said, I'll have to look for it, add it to the show, that in our lifetime, this is not with platforms, right? So this is not with us using social platforms and YouTubes and all the things. Just in our day-to-day, going to the grocery and dropping kids off, we would reach over 80,000 people. We'd have impact on 80,000 people's lives. And I was like, wow. So that's, of course, not with all the other things a lot of us are doing, right, on these platforms. But every single person, your neighbor, your grandma, right? They have that kind of impact in others' lives, or they could. So that was one thing I want to mention, because I think some people think, well, I don't have a platform. I'm not this business that has a high profile, but it doesn't matter, right? We can touch lives by conversations and by what we do in small gestures. And then two, I say to people, and it took me till only the last couple of years to realize this, our life is our ministry. And whether you're faith oriented or not, you don't have to have something called a ministry for it to be a ministry. You are the ministry. And so I think a lot of people don't get that. They think, well, I'm not a pastor, I'm not a youth minister, and no, that you are actually that already, but based on what you're doing and how you choose to show up in the world.
Yeah, in our Blue Zone CEO Mastermind, one of the first assignments we give all of our clients, even though it's a business container, is what is your 1 million person plan? And new clients are sort of like, well, what do you mean, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, even if you're not doing anything, your number's accurate, 80,000 or whatever, like you're already making an impact. Like your decisions already are rippling around the world. We live in a globalized world. My father's an anthropologist. He wrote on globalization, right? Like we already live in a globalized world. You already are impacting around the world by simply being alive, right? So then when I start blowing their mind by saying, let's actually consciously cultivate a plan to affect 1 million lives, they're like, right?
Because I love that.
It's really just a decision of how do you want to live? And I love your idea, this concept of you are the ministry. You already are. It's already happening, right?
That's
so
you don't have to call it anything special.
That's right. That's right. And you don't have to wait for someone to give you permission to realize that you actually are that. I love that concept of you are the ministry.
Yeah. So two things. I think a lot of people fall in two camps, especially, people that would listen to this podcast or, that we probably come across. I think one type of person might be, they know they want to make impact in the world. They know what kind of tugs at their heart, and they know maybe what their gifts are, they're good at, but they can't figure out how do I take those things and connect them into making a business that has impact and profit, that they can sustain themselves on. So the first question with that is, what do we tell those people? How can we step from that into actually creating this, wealth circulating type entity, if you will?
The ability to move from passion to profits, right? That's kind of that big leap, right? So the first thing I would say to your audience is fast forward to the end of your life. I know this sounds so morbid and people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to think about that. But I'm like, fast forward out to that other zone of your life, right? That other chapter. Climb into the skin of that version, which is what I did when I was 19, right? Anybody can do it. They don't have to have the spiritual experience in North India. Right. Anybody right now can tap into that 80, 90, 100-year-old version of themselves and ask that version of you, what would I regret not having moved forward during my lifetime? And I really want your audience, like, please take that in, climb in and listen. Your future self will tell you, hey, Kristin, please don't stay at this job for the next 25 years that you're miserable in or that you're good at. And for some people, they're not even miserable. They're good at it. They get paid really well, and they've kind of got that golden handcuffs because they've got the 3 kids that are in the schools and the lacrosse teams and all, whatever the things are. And so they're like, oh, I'm just going to slog this out for my lifetime. But guess what? You're going to get to the end of your life and have regret. And I know that you talk a lot about building a life you love, right? Well, part of it is let it be guided by what you would regret not having done later. So if something inside of you knows that you would regret not having run a business that actually created impact, like listen to that now. Right. Listen to it now, because there's nothing worse than regret. Nothing.
Oh, absolutely. So a couple of things came to me when you were saying that. The first was, if someone hasn't read the book or the blog, The 5 Regrets of the Dying,
that's right.
You need to go search it right now and find it, because it talks about, that and the other things, like people didn't say their truth. They didn't say the things they wish they had to the people they loved. They didn't take the fun trips. They didn't, they didn't take the risks. And it's sad, but it's only sad for us if we don't take heed to that warning, right? So 100% agree with you. And then one thing I did in the last couple of years that I hadn't done before is write that letter of your future old self to yourself now. At first it seemed, I know, I get it. It seems like a little awkward exercise, but I will tell you, after you write it, and I've done the kid version letter to myself too, it's powerful. I mean, some of the stuff if you really let yourself take a half an hour to sit down and do it, it's shocking what you put in there. Both like, what are you doing well right now? And then what, like, would you advise to do different? So I would say, do that if you've never done that before. And then the last thing, go ahead. Yeah.
And listen to your future self. See, people will say, oh, I'm looking for a sign. And when I'm like, God gave you one.
Right.
It was through the letter from your future self, but you ignored it.
Yeah.
It's like the story of like, I'm drowning in the ocean. God sends the lifeboat, but I ignore it, waiting for God to come save me. It's like, whatever your faith, whatever your tradition is out there, like listen to what emerges from what your future self tells you.
100%. And then the other thing when you were talking, what it reminded me of is we are so stuck on being comfortable. Even when we're uncomfortable, we don't want to get out of that comfort of being uncomfortable, that we get stuck there. And I try to tell people, and I have so many friends that get stuck in this. I've been at the same job for so many years, and they like, even though they're not happy anymore, they'd rather stay because they feel like, well, I put all this time in, instead of what I say is shift the context and say, what if I change jobs and it's amazing? What if like I started my own business and it's better than I could ever imagine, instead of a fear-based what if? And so we just have a hard time of shifting that switch to in a positive, like what would be the best thing would happen, instead of only looking at the negative context of something.
Yeah, in our company at Uplift Millions, we call that the negative what ifs versus the positive what. Like, what if it doesn't go right? What if it falls apart? What if I fail? What if my business doesn't work out? What if I don't get enough clients? What if, right? And it's like, well, what if it's better than you ever imagined? Right? Because we're so hardwired, the way our nature of our brain has evolved over thousands and thousands of years, is to look for fears, to look for threats, right? The lion's coming to get me, right? And my thing is, let me tell you what's worse than the fear of failure is the fear that you'll get to the end of your life and didn't go for what you were most capable of doing and solve the mission of why you came to Earth. I'll tell you, that's way worse. I would rather fail over and over and over again, which, if I'm being totally honest and transparent with your audience, I've been in a 20-year career. Some of it's worked and done great. Some of it I've fallen down on my face and splatted and had to peel myself up, right? But I keep going on this drive to make an impact in the world because it's the way I'm hardwired. And I would rather fail and going for it than to live my life in a dead-end job, afraid of going for something bigger.
Absolutely. So what about the other people where they're now, and I know you work with a lot of these types of people, they're doing pretty well, right? In their business, a lot of them have started their own businesses, solopreneur or bigger, but plateau hits, right? So what do we do? I mean, what do you see, I guess, right, is happening there? And then how do we step past that?
I'll just share my own journey, which is that before 2016, I was a rising star in the social impact business space. I got a lot of, public attention and blah, 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 right? 2016, wheels fell off. I lost everything. Personal life fell apart. My business life fell apart. Ended up in a one-room studio, no car. And it was a real coming to G's moment. It was like, what just happened? I have a heart of gold. I have a commitment to want to make the world a better place. I work hard. I put in long hours. Like, you would think it should work out. And I want to reveal to your audience the thing that I wasn't doing. The thing I wasn't doing was asking for help. I was trying to figure everything out on my own. Yeah. So for those that are plateauing, most likely you've gotten yourself as far as you can go. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you don't need to feel embarrassed. See, I used to feel embarrassed that I had plateaued. And then I didn't want to admit it because I thought, look at all these entrepreneurs. They're clearly figuring it out on their own. No, they're not. Yeah. Highly successful people. I started praying. I was like, what am I not doing?
Right.
And the thing that was revealed to me is that I wasn't raising my hand and asking for help.
I love that. And I love that you shared that for two reasons. One, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there, like lots of signals said success, but not necessarily the ones that all mattered, right? Or I thought, oh, once we get this, blah, right? Or I thought, oh, I just have to find the right person instead of just scream and tell everybody you need help. And hopefully the right person will find you to help, right? And I didn't do that either because, at different times. And I think many of us still struggle with that. Like, we get help in some areas, but in other areas we're like, no, it's, you know what I mean? We rationalize to ourselves. So I like that you shared that. But the other reason I forget, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. So I like that you shared it because it's so true. The other thing though too is I think to your point, we're always growing. So to help, we need changes. And, one thing I've seen and I hear is that two things happen if you are honest about that you need help and where you're at and what you're doing, and then you're enthusiastic about it, right? You have this energy, you're so behind it. People can't help but gravitate towards that, but they also can't help but want to connect you with somebody because you're clear on what you need. And need can be, I need help with how do I make income or how do I get more following, or it can be, I just need help, like people to come behind me, whatever it is. But when we're clear on those two things, like we have the energy and enthusiasm behind the thing we're doing, and we're clear on what stage we're at, right? The doors blow open because people want to help people that are really clear on what they're doing, including that, I'm at this stage, like I'm a newbie or I'm at this, they want to come along. And so I love that you shared that, because I think it's really important to point out.
Yeah. I always ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how equipped do you feel in the current moment to make the impact that you want to make during your lifetime, particularly for heart-centered entrepreneurs, which tend to be my world of people,
right?
On a scale of 1 to 10. And most of them realize that even though their desire is at a 10, if they're actually being honest with themselves, they're probably like a 3 in terms of actually feeling supported, capable, and have the structures in place to make that big vision impact come to life, right? And once you're honest, then you want to say to yourself, okay, well, if I'm being honest and I'm about a 3 right now, it's not about being hard on yourself or feeling bad. It's just being honest. Great. Then raise your hand and let the universe start surrounding yourself with people who have already figured it out, who've already cracked the code, right? Like there's 2 types of people listening to this: those that are going to value money over time. So those are going to be the people who are like, well, I'll just read the books and watch the YouTube videos and listen to the podcasts that are free, that are around me, and I'll make my biggest potential come to life. And then there are those that value time over money, because they realize time is finite, time they can't get back. So they'll invest into surrounding themselves with people who have actually already done it.
Right.
And gone, can you speed up my timeline on a thing?
Right. Oh, no, so true. And I think too, it's when you have somebody helping you or coming alongside of you, it's also you now are being questioned to be honest, because, they say as humans, right, we're not very good at self-reflecting always.
That's right.
The context. So it's like, oh, well, I think I'm doing okay. And then when you really get clear on it, right, then it kind of starts building the surface, maybe where there's those points, like you're saying, where you're not getting the growth you want, or you're not getting the time frame you want, or whatever it might be. So
whatever it is.
Yeah. I think that's really good.
And I would really say to your audience, like to those listening, there's a shift in identity, right? If we're talking about building a life you love, in my case, building, the business is one piece of it. But what I would say to your audience is shift out of the mindset of entrepreneur to the mindset of being CEO, right? CEO of your life, CEO of your business. When you emerge, right? Because entrepreneurs, those versions, they're wearing way too many hats, right?
Right.
They're juggling way too many things. They're really still a glorified employee of their business. So really just say to everyone listening, evolve your identity into the identity of the CEO of your life, the CEO of your business, and allow the universe to start supporting you beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if we're not, it comes down to values, right? And that's how we decide what impact we want to have. But we need to know what our priorities and values in our whole life. Otherwise, we'll never have a business that actually aligns with, like, we don't control it, it controls us.
That's
right.
correct.
And that's how people end up working 80 hours a week, because they didn't define what is their lifestyle, what am I going to allow to happen in my schedule, and I think, that's something that at some point most of us become aware of, right? And we correct if we haven't designed it that way, but not everybody has yet, but I'm very aware of that, like Mondays and Fridays, I don't have any interviews or calls like that are set on the books weekly, because those are my days to get work done or be creative or cut out early, whatever it might be. I mean, some of those might be long days, but it's just head down, or it's other work, but I don't want to have commitments all the time on those days, And so for me, I designed it, very specifically when my hours are for certain things, because if I didn't, I found that it was all over the place and I had no control over it.
Yesterday with one of our elite clients, we structured out their year, and you want to know the thing we structured it around?
Vacation.
Her getting married.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. The entire year-long business plan was literally structured around everything for her dream to actually fully, because she's the primary breadwinner. 75% of our clients are women. We believe in financial sovereignty for women, and that the world gets better when more money flows to more women.
Yeah.
Right. And so we structured her entire business plan for her year around her getting married.
Wow. That's cool. That's really cool. I've not
It was
heard
awesome.
of that one before. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing, right? Full
Yeah.
life, integrated, holistic approach to her business is about her life.
Yeah. And she'll feel so much calmer, more aligned, and not frazzled, knowing that she's planned in all the time she needed for whatever she's planning with the wedding or she's going to. Right. So what's nice is she doesn't have to think about it now.
That's right.
She knows she's planned for it.
That's right. It's not being tucked in or squeezed in.
Right.
It's the thing that she's mapping out the year for what she's going to do in the business around this rather than the reverse.
Absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about your philosophy around wealth, right? And what attaining wealth can do, right, in the world, with our legacy and impact. And then also, I know you had noted before we started recording about, the energy, right? The different energies and what do we get with that?
For the last 300 to 400 or 500 years, business has really sort of been driven by profit at all costs, right? Like, get money no matter what you have to do for it, right? And so what we saw emerge in history has been, women getting paid less, people of color getting paid less, burn the environment down at all costs. And I truly believe the future is going to be as more and more of us as leaders emerge into what we call an intersection of wealth consciousness and impact consciousness, right? Prior, we had people that developed wealth consciousness who were like, okay, they figured out how to get rich. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but that's what they did, right? Or you had people that were impact consciousness who were like, I want to make the world a better place. And guess what? Those people were often broke, right?
Right.
I mean, all of us know a rich person and a broke activist, right?
Right.
Right. And so I'm saying, hey, then the future, and this is what I'm writing about in the book, Maximum Impact Potential, is around how do we cultivate a wealth consciousness and an impact consciousness that you get to live in your dream home and have your dream car and go on dream vacations, but you also get to make dream levels of impact. So, for me, I talk a lot about wealth circulation, not just wealth generation. Now, obviously, you have to generate wealth before you can circulate it. Right. But the people that tend to come into our containers at Uplift Millions are people who are beginning to think about, how can I provide for my family? For sure, create security, stability, be able to protect my family, right? Through no matter what can happen. Awesome. Right. So I talk about 4 circles of contribution, right? Circle number 1 is where you're providing for yourself. Circle number 2 is where you're providing for yourself and your family. Circle number 3 is where you're providing for yourself, your family, and maybe you're able to now start providing for your community. And circle number 4 is where you're providing for yourself, your family, your community, and now you're able to start doing some things that really start having global impact. So, I just believe that money, this sounds so cliche, Kristin. I remember the first time someone said to me, Alok, money's just energy, right? And I was like, well, screw you, right? Don't give me a platitude about money. But it really is. And when we realize that the more you help, there's a Zig Ziglar line. I don't know if you ever heard it, which is the more you help other people get what they want, the more you'll receive what you want.
Yes.
And so for those of us that want to run businesses that are based on our passions and our ability to make an impact and help other people's lives and live with purpose in our business life, not just our personal life, you get to have it all.
Yeah.
I truly believe you get to have it all. It is just energy moving. So if you commit to being a wealth circulator and speak to the universe, God, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, and say, I invite more money energy to flow through me, because I know that the more that flows through me, the more good I will do in the world.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like you had mentioned the masculine, feminine, but is that somehow connected to this wealth circulation idea and just the receiving of, energy, which is money, so what does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I truly, we live in such a divided world, right? It's like you're either masculine, do, or you're feminine, be, right? the people I tend to attract and who I surround myself with are people who are the intersection. I truly believe we weren't born one or the other.
Right, right.
I believe all of us have masculine and feminine inside of us. And people say,
Right.
wow, that's strange to hear a man talking about his feminine. Yeah. It's like, well, the more I actually truly believe that you have 3 sons, I have a son, right? It's like, it's tapping them into being a heart-centered man, right? Likewise, a lot of the women that come to me, it's me helping them step into their masculine and own their value and stop being underpaid. Right?
Yeah.
So to me, we live in a world where I believe the future is going to be that intersection of the masculine and the feminine, where you get to receive, right? You're going to crank up and focus on your doingness, but also on your beingness. Who are you being in the world? Who's going to lead the movement for change that you want to make, either in your family, your community, or in the world?
Right. No, I love that. Yeah. And I like that concept. And I agree with you. And it's only been in the last handful of years that I really have read more about the 2 different energies and what that looks like when you're kind of turned on for one of those energies. Because to your point, it doesn't matter. It's not about a male or a female. We're talking about different type of energy and different level of energy. But I can 100% see when I'm in one or the other, now looking at it. And I'm like, oh, wow, no wonder things that were a little off, because I was so into this like focused production, do, instead of, where probably I need to be more on my, the creative and the high, the different type of the feminine energy, so I have to be careful that I don't stay in one too long when I really need to be shifting. So I think it's really interesting, and it's newer for me, those concepts, but I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's like, take my client Tamar, for example. She just had her first $120,000 month. And
Awesome.
The first question I will ask my clients, or my client Sonia, who just started in our Blue Zone CEO program, and she went from charging $11,000, and she just landed a $22,000 client for the same offer, right? Wow. And the first question I will always ask them when they have a peak experience, right? A peak result in their business, I will ask them, how does that feel in your body? Right? See, the masculine is just going to go, well, that was good, like on to the next thing.
Right.
Right. But that's where I actually need them to tap into their feminine and to feel, not just think, but feel.
Yeah. So they can repeat that same. Yeah.
That's correct. Because it hardwires their subconscious to start tapping in around that experience. Likewise, the flip side can be true too. If they're just in their feminine, they're like, well, I'm just going to wait and receive.
Right.
Right. I'm all about it. I'm not, I love, and I'm kind of like, I love you, but we're all going to need to lace in some doing, right?
Right.
We need
At
to
the
bring
end of
in
the day,
some
we got to make
masculine.
some hard cash. Like
That's correct. We're going to have to bring in some masculine here. I love that you want to ready to receive. And yes, everything's going to flow towards you. I love law of attraction.
Yeah.
And let's figure out what you and your team are doing. you know.
Hey, look, I get it. Because to me, full disclosure as well, since I've just been transitioning, moving into new stuff and new offerings this year, believe me, my husband's ready for me to get back to,
That's correct. The register.
Higher income again and all that. So yeah, I mean, besides myself, I'm like, okay, yep, I have a timetable. I better get on. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It can't just be like, oh, well, when it happens, because that's not going to cut it, right? We have to, like you said, we have to actually get the work done. We have to, go out there and actually create that wealth, if you will. So let me ask you, what else might you want to share, with the audience just about, well, 2 things. One, I know you talk about, closing sales, right? Like that a lot of people struggle with that piece. Is there anything you'd share about that? Because I mean, first of all, I think, and I'm guessing you might align with this, every single person, we are all salespeople.
That's right.
You are selling yourself in your daily life, even if you'd never call it that, right? So we all have to sell something. We have to sell our idea. We have to sell that someone might like us. And I don't mean you're selling it because you are trying to convince them. It's just how life works, right? Like we're always trying to convince somebody of something. So what would you share with us about that?
Yeah, people can either be in resistance to sales or not. But Kristin, you nailed it. 100% of humans are in sales. The dentist is selling you on why you should come to their dentist's office. The doctor is selling you on why you should come to theirs. The preacher is selling you on why you should come to their church. The superintendent of the school is telling you come to this school, right? So even non-entrepreneurs, non-business owners you are in sales. If you're an employee, you are selling your manager above you on why you should continue to have a job, right? You are in sales, whether or not you like being in sales or not. So I really like to move sales in people's minds really to something that actually is sacred. And particularly for those of us that live in the impact-driven business space, right? Like, let's say you have a passion and you want to be a coach and you want to help people make some sort of transformation, whether it's business coach or a health coach or a wellness coach, whatever that is, but you're in that world of desiring to make other people's lives better. Selling is serving.
Right.
Selling is the first step to serving, right? So I don't care how big your heart is, right? You want to know one of the best salespeople in history? Mother Teresa.
Yes.
Mother Teresa was one of the best saleswomen in all of human history, because she would look at billionaires who wanted to write a check and she had no problem saying, "Is that all?"
Yeah.
That's nothing. Yeah. I don't want that check. You either write a bigger one or nothing. She had no problem selling, right? Because she believed in what she was selling. She had a deep belief, right? And so I would just recommend people to really see that sales is just that first step in someone making a really powerful transformation to change their life in a better direction.
Right. Absolutely. And I agree with you. It is service. Really, if you're finding the right product or service to match with the right person, we call it sales, but to your point, it's really just saying, hey, which of these is fitting with which person, right? That's really all we're doing. We're just kind of saying, like, which one matches with which person. And we call it sales, and that word scares some people, but really, if we're just authentic and we believe in whatever we're doing, right, or whatever we're working with, we can just call it a sale or not. It's really just, how do we connect with the right
It's
person?
just an exchange. And so I would just say I started selling, going door to door with my late Uncle Jim in rural upstate New York. And we were selling water purifiers. And, I learned a lot at age 11. I watched him and he taught me two things that were the best lessons about business that I've ever learned. One was, Alok, sell things that make other people's lives better, and sell to people you love so you never feel that you're working a day in your life.
Love it. Love it.
And so if you don't like what you're selling, sell something else.
Yeah.
Right. Sales. Yes, people are correct. Sales can be used for not good outcomes. Right. And sales can be used for selling good outcomes.
Right.
Right. So I tell people all the time, like when I'm training them on sales, I'm like, hey, I'm giving you some actually like nuclear weapons right now. Like, you could use this for not good outcomes.
Right. Get
right?
it. Yeah.
I mean, like, let's get real. The better you get,
right,
you actually run the risk. What I tell people is this: sell from your heart, and don't be afraid. The way to know that sales will never become a negative tool in your toolkit that's used for harm is that, commit in your soul, or whether it's source, God, universe, whatever your language is, commit. I will never sell the wrong person the wrong thing. And I'm not afraid to end a sales opportunity if I feel the person cannot receive a benefit.
Yeah.
As long as you know that, as long as that is your North Star, as long as that is your commitment to the universe or God or whatever it is, and you do your best. Now, don't get me wrong. I have missold people. It happens. Why? Because my heart actually believes that they can make a big change, even though they're telling me I'm not the right fit. And it happens. It just happens much less than when I was younger. Okay. So be gentle with yourself. If you make a mistake, you can clean it up. You can unwind it. You can give them their money back, or whatever the case may be. Right. But just generally speaking, be guided by your heart. Listen. If you truly believe somebody can make, like, if I just got off a call right before us with a woman who's, her name's Tony Bergen. She's a founder of Journey Dance. She just joined our Blue Zone CEO program. She's been teaching for 25 years. When she and I had a sales call, Kristin, not a bone in my body hesitated to make her a $32,000 investment. Not a bone in my body.
Yeah.
because I just knew. I was like, oh my God, this woman, she's been dedicated to her passion for a quarter century. And I know I can help her take Journey Dance to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew.
Right.
Now, if I can't see it, I call it a third eye clairvoyance. If I cannot see a woman like Tony's future,
Mm-hmm.
I end the call.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
So you feel like it's not the right client for you at that
That's
moment.
correct.
Yeah.
I had a sales call on Monday. The call opened by her. I said, because it was a referral. Someone made that. To be honest, Kristin, I didn't know anything about this woman. So I said to her, tell me, I said, I don't know anything. So-and-so introduced us to each other, bring it to me. And the first thing she says, well, I'm looking for a funnel builder who can review our funnels. And you know what I said to her, Chris? I said, I'm not your guy.
Right.
Like,
sure. That makes sense.
I don't know why. Right. I do not add enough value. I said, sure, my lead strategist in our program could review and we can add some value, but it's not why people hire us.
Right.
Right. But rather than ending the call, I kept listening, kept talking. And now she's in conversation to do our 100K year-long one-on-one, because that's really the level that she's actually looking for. Right. It wasn't the funnel builder that she's actually looking for. And not only that, Kristin, she's like, I don't want any of your group programs either. She's like, and so it turned out she wants the most expensive thing on the menu. I said, okay, well, let's talk about that then.
Right.
Right. But it's all based on listening. And I have no problem saying to somebody, I don't think I'm your guy. Yeah. I don't think you should spend any money on me because I don't think I add enough value. There's other people who add more value for funnel building or whatever.
Right.
We'd be a waste.
Yeah. Well, okay. I love that you brought that example, because one of the things I had written down that we might just touch on briefly is, how do we have authentic conversations?
Yeah.
Right. And part of that is that you listened really well and that you kept hearing signals or whatnot in asking questions. So is there anything you'd share about that? Because I think that's a key, right, to building these businesses and having impact.
Huge. Oh my gosh. So notice what I modeled for you guys, for the listeners, is I wasn't uncomfortable when I heard, oops, I think this is the wrong fit. Mm-hmm. I really want people to hear that. Don't be afraid. Don't be like, oh no, I should try to figure out how to help everybody. Like if you are not being met with a fit where you add the most value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See, it's not that I couldn't have added any value. See, some people would get into a little trap there and realize, well, my lead strategist actually is a funnel wizard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's not our frontline big value driver, right? Now, amateurs would be tempted in that moment to go, well, you can work with my lead funnel, my lead strategist here, and we can, right? Because they want to make a sale. Mm-hmm. It's so much, you'll earn so much more credibility with the person you're talking to if you can say to them, I'm not sure this is where I add the most value. Because why? It'll make them curious about where you do add the most value.
Right.
See, as soon as I kept asking questions and listening. Please, everybody who's listening to this right now, let questions be your friend. Let questions give a clarity of whether there's a great fit or not. So for me, when I'm in a conversation, I'm listening for two things. One, should I end the call right now? Mm-hmm. Or two, am I locking and loading? And what I mean by that is, if I hear enough signals from somebody that they have the challenges that I know we add a lot of value around, I'm going to lock and load. I'm going to communicate very clearly to this potential buyer, we're a fit, we should move forward. Or I'm going to just say, just like I did, you know what, based on what you're sharing with me, based on the questions I've asked you, honestly, I think I should make a referral to somebody else who's an assassin level at the thing that you want. And it's not me. I would much rather refer you to my friend so-and-so, my colleague so-and-so. I've got an enormous network, of people who are better than me at what they do. Right. Let me make a referral for you, right? Like, for example, if someone came to me, Kristin, and said, I just want low ticket $97 digital courses sold by a Facebook or a YouTube ad funnel. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, there's other people way better than me.
Right. That's what they do. That's their thing.
That's their jam. They are phenomenal at it. Me and my team would kind of duct tape something. And we do that for some of our clients where it's the right time for them and they want our level within the program to address that. But it's like, if they're just looking for that exclusively, go get a specialist, right? And so, it's being able to have really heartfelt, honest conversations. And when you do that, you won't be uncomfortable telling someone really directly, this is my jam. And I will add tremendous value. Like, I'm not uncomfortable saying that. And I'm not uncomfortable saying, I think we should end the call because I'm not your guy. Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think we feel like we feel the energy of the person seeming more authentic. Right. In other words, they're not trying to hide anything.
That's right.
When they're like, well, you know what? I'm not really sure that this is the right fit, or this isn't my thing. This is my thing. But it's when we're kind of gray, right? That's where it's not always, the people are hesitant, partly because you're not really giving off signals like, hey, you know what? I think this might not work, or I'm not sure yet. So can you answer these other questions for me? That's
correct. I mean, here's how it can really play out in the long run. I've had people for whom on a sales call, I actually told them I don't add enough value. I literally said those words.
Right.
For what you need, I and my team, we do not add enough value. See, now I used to be insecure about saying that, right? But I've said that to them, they've thanked me for being honest, right? But in so doing, Kristin, I positioned where I am a massive value creator. Right. Guess what? Those people have ended up becoming phenomenal referral sources because I did not missell them. Right. I told them the truth, which meant me actually losing business, right? Losing business because I maybe could have sold them on something, but I was honest. They've ended up becoming massive referral partners for me because I told them the truth. I didn't oversell them into some junk they didn't need. Right. And then bang, I've become their go-to person for the thing which I do own as my biggest value, right? Which really in our business, it's those people who want to really sell high ticket, right? 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. I've got clients that are working on 7-figure offers right now. I'm like, I'm your guy for up there.
Right. Well, and there's so many people that'll tell you, it took them years to get some of their clients. And it's not because they couldn't close the deal. It's because that client wasn't the right client yet.
That's right.
Right. And that's okay too, because the point is if you respected that lead or that relationship you're building, and it just wasn't a right fit now, if you still treat them like you would treat any other human, I hope, if you're, aligned with your values, eventually they may be at the right place where you actually do work together. And maybe not some of them, but so many people have those stories where they're like, oh my gosh, it was like 3 years ago we met. And it wasn't until 3 years down the road that you're like, oh, now I can help you with where you're at. So I think that's how we have to respect those, even leads that maybe only were a half an hour conversation one time. You never know what the impact you had on that person was yet.
I will tell your audience a story. Some of them are like a surprise. Yeah. Right? Like oftentimes I'll get off a call and I'll think, this person's probably going to percolate and they'll come around in a few months. But sometimes I want to share with your audience, it's a total surprise. Here's an example. I had a call about 8 months with a woman and we got off the call. It was a very good call, but she ended up declining the services at that time. And my intuition was, I don't actually know that she'll actually ever come around. I didn't have that intuitive hit. Okay. She took a high powered job somewhere else and, which still was as a coach, but it just, my intuition actually was sort of like, I'm not sure. I liked her, I liked her. Kid you not, in December, she signed on for our masterclass that we ran. And I thought, this is really interesting, but I have no idea. And bang, she's joined on for our highest level elite program, 30,000, 6 months, already made her payment, I was like, so I want to tell the audience, stay open. Like,
Yep.
you have no idea when things will align for somebody.
That's
And
right.
she kept watching me. She took in a ton of my content, and then she turned into a dream client. Like,
Yeah.
that one shocked me, Kristin, you know? And
I believe it, not to that scale, but many years ago when I was doing some more like business and online workshop stuff, but in person, this one gentleman had come to one of my things, like a training type thing. And like 3 years later, he called me, to help him with some of his tech stuff. And I was like, what? But he's like, well, I still have
that's
your
right.
card. It's like it took him 3 years to call
That's
me.
right.
And I really wasn't doing that much work in that space anymore in that area. But I still ended up helping him. But the point was, you never know how long it takes all of us to come around for certain things because we get busy with other things, or maybe financially it's just not the right time, whatever it might be. So yeah, I think the key there was keep putting out good content, be a really good human, and know
Be a
what your
good human.
values and your priorities are. Yeah.
Yeah, don't leave people with stink face after their call, right? Like, because you just don't know, are they going to turn into a referral source?
Yeah.
The other thing I would say to your audience, either those that haven't quite made that leap yet, they're in an unhappy job, or they're paid well, or the people you also mentioned who have made the transition. What I would really say to them, two things. One, timing will never be perfect to make a really powerful decision to invest in changing your life. It just never will be. There will always be something, kids' tuition, a graduation coming up. There will always be something. Why? Because the brain goes, don't change. Right. It can feel scarier to change than to stay where you're unhappy. Crazy as that sounds.
I agree.
And two, I would say, don't make decisions about whether or not you're going to invest into change based on your current financial situation. And I say that I just want to be very careful because I don't want people to freak out on me. But more so, what I would say is make your decisions based on whether your intuition tells you that the value, long-term value into your life of the investment will be worth more than the investment itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and they often say we have to stretch in order to actually have growth, right? So a lot of times that means financially too.
Yeah, I mean, here's an example.
If it's comfortable, we may not. It's kind of like why they say they don't, even some things it could be free, like just a online little challenge, and some of those are. But if everything's free, people are like, yeah. Or if it's cheap, they don't show up, right? And they don't do the work, in other words. So you do have to have skin in the game. And sometimes that means financially.
And I'll give an example of this. I mean, I was looking at an investment for myself, and I went to a mentor and I asked, what do you think of this investment? Because I invest into myself, right? Yeah. I'm not one of these 7-figure business owners who's telling you, you should be doing this. Like, I do this for me. Right. And I went to the mentors. I went to 2 mentors and I said, hey, I'm thinking about this. And there was 2 levels. There was a $75,000 level and a $30,000 level. Mm-hmm. And the mentors asked me, well, which of the levels are you thinking about, Alok? I said, well, I'm thinking about the 30K level. I'd already done some 10Ks and some 25K investments, $25,000 investments. So I said, I'm thinking about the 30K. And both mentors separately, and each in their own way, said, well, tell me, why are you thinking about that level? I said, well, because I can do it, because I can do it. I never forget. I said that literally to both of them, because I can do it, it's not, it's not a big deal. And literally both of them looked at me, Kristin, and they said, that's why you need to do the $75,000 level. And I mean, right in that moment, there was that kind of stomach churn where you kind of want to puke a little, and they were like,
I would have been like that.
Yeah. And but they were right.
Yeah.
Because they looked at me each in their own way and they said, you won't grow at that 30, even though it's a lot of money at $30,000. It is a huge amount of money. But they said, you're going to coast. Mm-hmm. Because listen to how you're talking about it. You're not stretching. You're not nervous. You're not uncomfortable at all. Yeah. And that was when I leaned into that 75K level, because I knew it felt uncomfortable. I was sweating, But here's the deal. As soon as I made that powerful decision, that's what I really want your audience. You want to build the life that you love, like make more powerful decisions than you've ever made before. Mm-hmm. Make more powerful decisions across your whole life. If you're in an unhappy marriage, either make a decision that it's going to improve,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're with a partner it's not going to improve, end it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not happy with your weight and your body or whatever, make a powerful decision.
Yeah.
If you've got trauma that's holding you back, do deep trauma work to help you start healing those traumas so you can transform other parts of your life. If you're looking to grow your business, invest into mentorship. If you're looking to whatever it is, if you're looking for spiritual guidance, invest, make powerful decisions.
Mm,
right?
absolutely. I think that's so good. Actually, I had a guest on, I think it was last summer, but she's more of a feng shui, but it's not in it from a designer perspective. She helps people kind of level up. Like it's more about expansion, but she had such great stories. She talked about how one woman, and a lot of us are guilty of this in certain places in our house, she never got new sheets because she was waiting till she got to some level. She had like scratchy, ratty sheets and she wouldn't. And I was like, oh God, and I could probably, I get it.
Yeah.
But she said, she said, because she looked, this woman, the guest expert had said, before I had my own business, I worked for this really high-end design company in Hawaii. So they had a lot of really, very, very wealthy clients. And she said, what I noticed is in those houses, they had spaces for everything, like a yoga space of this. She said, you have to design for the life you want to create for yourself. If you only have even your office, like if it had another lady she knew had like a broken leg on her table, but she wouldn't go out and replace the table. But every day that reminded of her that her wealth, her money mindset was like, well, I can't give myself that thing. But what a lot of people tell us is you actually need to go have this really rich experience. Go spend more money on yourself than you ever have for something. And I don't mean go, get in debt for it necessarily,
Sure.
but because you're never going to level up if you don't allow yourself to feel how that felt. And to your point, the 75K for you at the level you're at in your business, what it did is it made you stretch to say, if I'm going to spend that kind of cash on my investing in myself, I'm going to have to make that much more money to justify it. So it made you level up or expand.
So you nailed it, Kristin, right? Like it made that prickly, uncomfortable feeling inside me, which really forced me to evolve into the version of myself who would make the 75K investment the right decision.
Yeah.
Right? That is an internal growth, an internal evolution into that future version of ourselves, right? And we get to do that across our entire lives. Like, I got called out because I had, after 2016, I had fixed my financial life, right? So I could be a provider in my household, right? But let's be real. During the time period we lived in, I tacked on like 25 pounds, right?
COVID-15, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And so then at a certain point, I had to make, I made all sorts of powerful decisions in my spiritual life. I do plant medicine ceremonies to start healing past trauma for my investment. But my physical,
it had been ignored. Yes.
And so finally, then I made a powerful decision there too, right? So I want to say to the listeners, like, as you're listening to this, walk away from your listening of this episode and commit to yourself. What are the most powerful decisions I can make across my entire life?
100%. I love that.
Literally. And it's available to you. I don't care whether you're white, black, yellow, purple. I don't care, old, young, rich, poor. You are fully endowed with the capacity to write down more powerful decisions about your future and your life than you've ever made before.
Absolutely. I love that. And I would just say on that note, even in the personal, I mean, I've been married for a long time, 22 plus years. And, I'll have to tell my husband sometimes like, all right, this thing gonna work. Like I don't want okay or good. Like I want better because our kids or teens were at this new stage, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I want to be with you in 15 more years. So like we need to do different. We need to do new. We need to, try, go new places or spend quality time together. Netflix is great, but I'm like, that doesn't count as quality time, honey. But my point is you have to have those conversations because it's like in any other area of your life. It's called growth, right? You're either stagnant or you're growing. And it's the same with our relationships. You got to invest the time and you have to have those conversations to say like, this is what I'm going to try to do to improve. And this is what I need us to do. It could be with my kid. It didn't matter who the conversation was with, but it was don't wait till it's too late, right? Like you gotta, I mean, it might be too late because you need to change it, but you gotta do the work now, so it's so true.
And I would actually say, because I used to say growing or stagnant, right? But a mentor actually pointed out to me and said, Alok, take it from nature.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Nature is either growing or dying.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Oof.
I've heard that before too.
That
yeah, I'm with you. That makes it more like you're more likely to make a change, right? Because you're right. I agree with you. It's true.
He looked at me and he was like, Alok, there is no stagnant. There is no flat line. There is no plateau. It's either growth or contraction.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, oh my God.
I mean, you're right, because you're more likely to make a change if you saw it in that context. So I love that too.
You're either expanding or contracting.
Yeah, I love it.
You're not floating. And whether that's in your relationship, right? That relationship's either growing or dying.
Yeah.
And we grapple with that, right? Because, my partner has made certain asks of me as a man.
Right, sure. Who hasn't? Relationship, who hasn't? It's human nature because we're two people always compromising, right? But it's just how life is, I think, I think if there was no asks, then I would question if the people are being honest, maybe.
That's right.
That's just the truth here, right? Like, if you think your relationship's great and you never think you ever question or say you want something different, then I'm going to ask you if the other person's really paying attention,
That's right. Yeah. Are they really awake at the wheel?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being on today and sharing so much wisdom in your stories and just, the things you've learned along the way. Look, how can people connect with you online and learn about your upcoming book and all the amazing things you're doing in the world?
Oh, thanks so much. It's been such a joy to be here. First step is you can go to upliftmillions.com/book if you'd like the book, Maximum Impact Potential. And then you can also go to we.upliftmillions.com. It's our standalone app. You can go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, find that app, jump in. It's primarily right now for entrepreneurs, but for those who want to begin to start uplifting millions of lives, it's a great place for you to take a first step with us.
I love it. Thank you so much and Happy New Year.
Such a great honor to be here, Kristin. Thanks so much.